it happened.
Mm-hmm.
This couch, a nest, and a dying plant. It's the Legends Podcast. Hello, everyone. I'm Jeremy. I got Dylan. I got Noah. And we're talking the top 10 worst EU/new canon, just basically Star Wars writers ever, in our opinions. But first, I want to say some things. None of us have seen Andor. I think we plan to. It might be the greatest thing ever. It could genuinely be good. I don't care. Dylan and Noah don't watch that stuff. Second of all, Willow was terrible. I couldn't get through an entire episode. It might be the worst thing I've seen since the Shannara Chronicles. And that's saying something, because that was made by MTV. Dial of Destiny. Yes, we're talking about all Lucasfilm properties right now. Indiana Jones, The Dial of Destiny. The trailer came out a few months ago. We're late to the talking. Noah and I talked about it because it literally came out when I was visiting him in Germany. Yeah, The Dial of Destiny. What an awful title.
The Call of Duty.
Yeah.
That's the same type of title.
Time traveling Nazis, I guess.
Which is awesome. That might be the only good part.
We got 3 Star Wars actors in it. Of course, Harrison Ford. We got the woman who played L3 in Solo. She's the co-star.
Oh, she's the one who co-wrote our favorite James Bond movie, No Time to Die.
Yes.
That's exciting.
And we got, what's his face, who played Jyn Erso's dad. Who's a genuinely good actor. He also played Le Chiffre in Casino Royale.
Oh, Mads Mikkelsen. Yeah, he's also the best Hannibal.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's a good show.
Mm-hmm.
What do I think of the Dial of Destiny? I'm worried. I'm really, really worried.
Yeah, the trailer looked like trash. It sounded to me. It looked like trash. Like, I didn't like the soundtrack it had, and I didn't like the CGI.
The minor key Indiana Jones theme, because that's what we have to do in all trailers now.
Yeah.
We've gone away from little kids singing in trailers to be emotional. Now we just take a famous theme from the 80s and then we put it in a minor key on a piano.
Mm-hmm.
And then we build, and it just sucks. The motion capture, I think, is acceptable. It looks better than Carrie Fisher did in Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
But most things do. I've only seen that movie once. I own it, but I refuse to watch it.
Yeah, but to me, the trailer, most of the CGI, it looked weirdly fake. I don't know what it is. It reminded me of like the DCEU movies, where for some reason they have like really bad CGI.
Well, yeah. Well, Marvel now has bad CGI. I just, on the plane ride back from Germany, I watched Thor: Love and Thunder twice, like looking between seats, and that movie looks like pure garbage. It is the ugliest movie I've seen in a while. It just looks cheap. Or like She-Hulk looked terrible too. Like it looks, a lot of the effects looked on par with a Disney Plus show, which allegedly there's talks we're going to get another Indiana Jones TV show for Disney Plus. But I don't know how accurate that is. I only saw one source for that. It's too much. Maxwell said dial of dementia. I say dial of diarrhea.
Closer accurate.
Oh, that's right. We're live on these.
Oh, yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
so used to I'm so used to pre-recording with Chris. I forget there's live chat's a thing.
Well, you gotta put Legends live because we get the funniest comments on Legends compared to anything else I stream. We get the good shit. But yeah, Dial of Destiny. I hope it's good, but they haven't fired Captain Kennedy yet, so I doubt it will be.
Mm-hmm.
Based on what we have seen and based on like rumors, it doesn't look promising because I'm already gonna make the bet Indy is gonna die.
I bet so too. And it's gonna be dumb. It's gonna be like Ettain's death in Order 66.
I mean, they have to kill him off because Harrison Ford is not getting any younger.
No,
he's like 98 years old, but he wants to continue. That's the thing.
Yes, they want to do a full mocap indie movie with him. I'm sorry, did you all see The Irishman? It's a great movie, but Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, and Joe Pesci. Even when they're de-aged, it's them. They move like old men. And very distracting. They have Mr. Clean faces, and they move like elderly people when they're beating someone. It just looks weird. I'm sorry, it's bad. Another thing, Noah wrote a book.
Oh yeah, that happened.
Yeah, you should plug that because it is Star Wars related. We're finally getting to some Star Wars stuff, people.
Yeah, I wrote the ultimate chronology. Everything that happens after Return of the Jedi, it's up on Amazon.
Check
so
it out.
That's good. And now I'm working on the Old Republic era, which is a nightmare because I've just hit SWOTOR.
I can imagine.
Can we talk about how nonsense every time Noah and I are in a Marco Polo chat with a couple other people, and every time Noah talks about trying to figure out SWOTOR, it makes no goddamn sense.
So I have what I have learned as someone who doesn't play the fucking games. What I've learned, Revan, because I only know his end in the Revan novel, he somehow gets freed from the prison of the Emperor. He is insane, and then you have to fight him, and he explodes, and he splits into a good side and a bad side, and the bad Revan zombie then has like a cult, and they infiltrate both Republic and Empire, and they try to resurrect the Sith Emperor who's already dead, just so Revan can kill him again, and then our hero in the game has to kill Revan, I guess, and does so. And it sounds like the dumbest thing ever.
It sounds like TCW.
Yeah.
Like bad TCW. Maxwell brings up a great question. Which do you prefer? The original Indiana Jones trilogy or the original Star Wars trilogy? I would have to say the original Star Wars trilogy, although I think the Indiana Jones movies are better made and better directed. They're more consistently better directed.
Yeah. I'd agree just in the fact that I've watched the OT more than I've watched the Indiana Jones trilogy.
I go through phases with it. Like right now, I'm on a huge Indiana Jones kick.
Mm-hmm.
And like, hell, if you compared Kingdom of the Crystal Skull to any of the Star Wars prequels or the Star Wars sequel trilogy, I will choose Kingdom of the Crystal Skull anytime. I kind of love Kingdom of the Crystal Skull because it has continuity with the Young Indiana Jones show.
And it has Shia LaBeouf.
And it has Shia LaBeouf.
We didn't mention the style of dementia. I guess Shia is dead. Or something.
I get that's what the rumors are. They killed him off. Well, no one wants to work with him anymore. He doesn't want to do movies like that anymore. He does his weird art stuff, and I appreciate it.
Remember in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull when like they show like a picture of Sean Connery? Oh, he's dead. Like Marcus Brody. Oh, he's also dead. In the same scene they mention it. Now they're gonna mention them again, but also Shia. Oh yeah, my son is now also dead.
And probably Karen Allen's dead too.
His wife is also dead now.
Yeah. You remember in the Young Indiana Jones show in the original cuts before George Lucas edited them into 90-minute movies, which most of them don't flow properly. Whatever. With the old Indy segments, and Indiana Jones had a daughter that came and visited. I wonder what happened to her.
Well, Lucas wanted a daughter in Crystal Skull, but Steven Spielberg was against it.
Yeah.
So they got Shia LaBeouf.
It was the right choice at the time. I will defend that. Those Transformers movies were really hot. They were terrible, but they were really popular, and they keep making them. There's another one of them coming out, and I was shocked because it's the same movie. They make the same movie over and over again with the Transformers movies.
You wonder why I haven't watched a movie in theaters in almost a decade.
Yeah, I didn't watch a movie in theaters all last year. I think I only saw one the year before because I think I saw Dune in the theater. Gabby and I went on a date. Saw that. But
Anyway, let's talk about some bad authors.
yeah. Maxwell, no, I have not seen Shia LaBeouf's porn film. I didn't know that was a thing. Have you seen Sylvester Stallone's porn film? It's a topic for another time. And another podcast.
Quick. Rob D is right. Shia LaBeouf is tired of screaming Optimus in movies.
Or Bumblebee. But anyway, we'll start with Noah.
Oh,
No,
thank you. I don't even have a full list because I just woke up. Okay.
You don't have one? Okay, Dylan, go first.
All right, so we each have our own list, except for Noah, who didn't come prepared. But I also, a couple of years ago, for the Expandiverse.com, I made a series of posts dissecting the accumulated review scores for every single Star Wars Legends book, and in that, I also compiled those user review ratings for the authors and summed them all together. So these are like the cumulative scores that people have given these books on Amazon, on Barnes & Noble, on Goodreads, on Literary Thing, and a Library Thing, and there was one other that I'm forgetting. So I have that top 10. So we're going to use that as like what the masses think are the 10 worst authors, and then kind of compare to our own. So the number 10 worst author, according to the masses, is Greg Bear.
Why?
Who wrote Rogue Planet.
I think his book's fine. It's probably because no one read New Jedi Order.
Yeah.
Because that's the general consensus with Rogue Planet is if you don't read New Jedi Order, it's a nonsense book. My dad gave up on it, I think. I think he never finished it. That was the last Star Wars book I think he read.
Yeah, it has at the time I took this data, it has an average of 3.44 stars.
I was expecting the Cestus Deception. Because isn't that the...
Yeah, we'll get to that. I'm sure one of us will mention it. But as for mine, so this is going to be a weird one, and I will explain. On some of these, I have broken it up. I've broken authors up because there have been several times when multiple authors have worked on a particular book. And in cases where multiple authors have worked on one book, but one author did another book, I have sort of split them in my list because I think that it's impossible to know when you're talking about a collaborative book whose ideas were who wrote what in that collaborative book. I think the best, but if you have two authors wrote one book and then one author wrote another book, that's a very clear distinction because the other author wasn't a part of that book. So you can compare an author's collaborative works with their individual works. And that's why my number 10 is Shane Dix, who wrote the Force Heretic trilogy with Sean Williams.
See, I would never put him on my list because I think he's the saving grace of the Force Heretics trilogy. But yeah. I didn't put Sean Williams on my list.
See, Force Heretic trilogy in itself, I don't think is inherently bad, right? I think but I think it's the weakest of New Jedi Order.
Really?
I think it because it happens at the very end, and I think it really pulls you away from the war for way too long. Because you kind of you go off if like Leia and like that subplot where they go to like Yavitha and they go to Bakura, and they're kind of going to these like outlying systems that are kind of away from the major war while it's happening. While like the New Republic or the Galactic Alliance at that point is actually gaining ground, but you don't see the action of them gaining ground. You go to random backwater planets along the rim and do that. And then there's the other storyline, which is the Luke party, which goes to Chiss space to find the origins of the Yuzhan Vong. Now that's interesting, and I think the best part of the trilogy, honestly, is Naminor's little arc where he gets disgraced and tries to start a heresy to overthrow the Overlord. And then the very next book, when he realizes he can get his old job back, he just betrays the heresy entirely because he's Naminor and he just does that.
Yeah.
But and I like that aspect. I like the lore aspect, and I like finding out. I like that aspect of it, of like trying to give Naminor some sort of arc, even if it later got destroyed in other books. And I liked the lore aspect of finally going to the Chiss space, finally seeing how the Chiss operate and all the backstory of the Yuzhan Vong. But I just felt like as a New Jedi Order book, it took us away from the actual ground war and the fighting and the struggle for the galaxy for far too long. And I think it's the weakest in that. And as Shane Dix obviously didn't write the other things Sean Williams did, that's why I have him at 10.
Okay. Noah, are you ready?
About my number 10?
Yes.
Okay, let me think. Because I did write down 6 authors that I remembered from the top of my head. You can probably guess who it is. It actually was hard with like book authors, so I have some comic authors in here.
Me too. I did some YA comic and
Okay, so let me see. I have 6 authors. I just remember 2 from the original Marvel run that I want to mention as being particularly bad. And then I have 2 spots left, so we shall see. Number 10 is, let me look up his name, J.M. DeMatteis, who wrote
the Lando one-shot that made Lando...
The Dreams of Cody Sunchild.
That's so awful.
He wrote it under a pseudonym like Waldo Lamborghini or whatever. And it is horrible.
Yeah.
And I think it's deserving on being on like my number 10 worst author, because I reread it. It has no point. Mm-hmm. It is stupid. It has terrible, like Cody Sunchild is a terrible design. Not just as a character, he looks terrible.
Even for that era, he looks terrible.
Yeah. His story is just dumb, and not in like a fun way, a fun old Marvel way. And it just felt like a waste of time and a wasted opportunity. This is the first Lando and Chewie story after Empire Strikes Back, and you give me the Dreams of Cody Sunchild. Really?
And then he got all bent out of shape because he wanted Lando to be a pacifist.
Yeah.
This film said no. Rightfully so. That's so
our series is called Star Wars. You can't do this. And then the comic ends with Lando crying because Cody is dead. And I was not ready to see Lando cry.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's just...
I would say it's the worst issue in the entire Marvel Star Wars run.
There is one that's worse for me. And that's my number 8.
Okay.
Or 9. Yeah, number 9.
Okay, so my number 10 is also a Marvel from the original Marvel run. So there were a lot of people that wrote in the original Marvel run, but there were the main 3. You had Mary Jo Duffy, who finished off the series and I think finished strong. You have Archie Goodwin, who was the gold standard. I mean, he really is the godfather of the EU. Alan Dean Foster gets that credit, but Archie Goodwin did far more for it, was far more creative. But I digress. And then we have David Michelini, who I think is terrible.
Why? And now say something different than, oh, he gave Luke a lightsaber, because Archie Goodwin started that.
It's just bland. It's so obviously not Archie Goodwin. His stuff's boring. And yet there is the lightsaber thing, and that was a mess up on Archie Goodwin's part. But his stuff is the weakest.
I hardcore disagree, because I just reread the run. His stuff is underrated, because I just read 3 or 4 of the worst issues humanly possible by like one-off writers, like the guy who wrote Cody Sunchild, or number 9 on my list, or The Last Jedi, or what else? There was Serphidian Eyes, where they brought in random one-off writers, and they did such a terrible job
And I
writing
would have put those on my list, but I made a rule to myself they had to write more than just one issue of a comic. Otherwise, so it's his name, but think of it as all the bad Marvel run authors. And like he's number 10, like he's fine, but Archie Goodwin I think was much better, and Mary Jo Duffy was much better. But yeah, number 9, Dylan.
So my number 9 and spoilers for my number 8 are basically the same person, but it's 2 authors who wrote one book together, and that is Dan Craig and David Sherman, who wrote Jedi Trial. I cannot think of a more weird novel.
It is a terrible novel.
Jedi Trial. Like, it has, again, it's a novel, right? That like it has the same issue with like I know one of us is going to bring up Clone Wars Wild Space, where it's a story that like has to happen, right? There has to be the story of what it was that like pushed Anakin over the edge to get him to knighthood, right? But it's just executed so poorly. Like, oh yeah, we'll just give you this random command in like this one-off battle in the middle of nowhere, and like he doesn't even star in like for most of it. And also shoot, I forget, I always get Corrin's dad and his grandfather's name confused, but his grandfather is there for some reason, and then the big revelation is like he tells Anakin at the end, oh, I have a wife, by the way. And he's like, oh wow, me too. And then that's just like never brought up in any other book again.
Yeah.
That like that he knows that that's like a thing that like some Jedi are okay with.
Yeah, it's in the dishonorable mentions, those guys are in there for me. I don't, like I said, they only wrote one book, thankfully.
Mm-hmm.
So they got saved.
I have a few one and dones in there, but I generally in my list, I gave higher precedence to authors that had multiple shots at writing a book and like blew them all. So my one and dones are mainly at the higher end of, or at the lower end, I guess, of my top 10. Or bottom 10, I should say.
Mm-hmm. All right. Noah, number 9.
Since I'm still missing 2 spots, I'm also gonna go with the Jedi Trial authors.
That's fair. That's fair. They just Jedi Trial is in. Oh gosh, it is in my top 5 worst Clone Wars novels.
I mean, it's not hard because we only have a couple Clone Wars novels, but yeah.
And plus, all Karen Travis's bad Republic Commando books get lumped together because they're bad for the same reasons.
And Yoda Dark Rendezvous, I remember reading it. I vividly remember because I was at like a doctor's office, and obviously I had to wait for like 2 hours in the waiting room, and I read most of Jedi Trial there, and it was like it's like I read an ebook copy and it was like 240 pages, and I'm like, oh, that's a quick read. I sat there for 2 hours and I finished like not even 100 pages. It was in such a sluggish pace.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's a military novel, not a Star Wars novel.
Mm-hmm.
Which Karen Travis did better. And I can't believe I'm saying that. Karen Travis did that better.
Well, Karen Travis has occasional strokes of brilliance. It's
Well, Karen
spoiler.
Travis was a war correspondent. I get the guys that did this. I think one of them was in the military,
Mhm.
but she was a reporter, so she knew how to write. That's the difference.
By the way, the Masses, their number 9 was Michael P. Q. McDowell, who wrote the Black Fleet Crisis trilogy, which is also a lot of people said is kind of a military war novel more than a Star Wars novel. I disagree.
Yeah.
I like Black Fleet Crisis, but I know that the popular opinion is Black Fleet Crisis is one of the worst one of the worst Bantam novels, so that didn't really come as a surprise to me.
I kind of love Lando's subplot in Black Fleet Crisis and nothing else about it.
Oh yeah, the Lando subplot's good.
It's one of the better Lando subplots.
Rob D also says Jedi Trial is my second favorite Clone Wars multimedia project after Dark Rendezvous.
Interesting. My number 9, pivoting to new canon because I did both canons. Delilah S. Dawson. Delilah S. Dawson wrote the book to introduce the theme park, which Black Spire, and she wrote the Phasma novel and a short story I never bothered to read. So Delilah S. Dawson, you should know, got her start writing porn, like porn books, like steamy romance stuff. And she doesn't understand tone, and it drives me nuts. And this is a common thing you'll see with the new canon authors. She, in a book that should have been designed for children, because it's a children's theme park book, she has her main character get her tear duct poked with a hot needle. It's one of the most graphic torture scenes I've ever read. And I reviewed stuff for Encyclopocalypse, like hardcore stuff. I've read some foul things. It is one of the most disgusting things that I've ever read. It was shocking. It's a Star Wars book. This isn't a Saw book. This isn't Hostel. It's a Star Wars book. And it's whimsical nonsense.
I'd expect that from Joe Schreiber, but at least
no. Joe Schreiber is now busy writing children's books for Disney.
I know.
He probably had kids, and that's probably why he did. It's like when Eddie Murphy started doing children's movies. He had too many kids. But yeah, Delilah S. Dawson's my number 9.
Well, since I already revealed my number 8, I'll go with the Masses number 8, which is one of 3 on here that your average person is going to say, who is that? But it's Todd Strasser. He wrote the Star Wars Episode 1 journal, Anakin Skywalker, and that was it.
I have that. I've never read it. But yeah, Noah, what's your number 8?
Okay, number 8. Let me check the guy's name again. There we go. Larry Hama, who wrote The Third Law, which is, in my opinion, the worst issue in the original Marvel run. It is nuts. It's the one where Leia goes to Argao, like the banking planet, and Darth Vader Vader wants to steal the Alderaanian jewels. And he has like a bunch of like assassins. One of them is Count Chocula. One is like Winnie the Pooh. And it's just insane.
Yeah,
it's garbage. And Leia acts so cocky, and it just feels so cheesy and not in a good way. It's like the author didn't get the tone of Star Wars at all.
Yeah, that's weird, especially after Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
Yeah. My number 8, Brian Wood. If you want your franchise destroyed, you hire Brian Wood to do it. He is probably, and we can put this in, like, there's a lot of bad comic authors right now. You got Jason Aaron, terrible. Dan Slott, terrible and a dick to fans. But Brian Wood has the Brown touch. Everything he touches turns to shit.
He's the J.J. Abrams of comics.
Oh God, he is. His alien stuff is some of the worst. And this is the Aliens IP is one of the most beaten around mess of an IP I have ever read, and his stuff is the worst. He wrote 2 comics, Aliens Defiance and Aliens Resistance, that were supposed to be tie-ins to Alien Isolation, and they don't really tie in except for a character named Zula is in there. And I guess Ripley's daughter's in the second one, but it got canceled after 4 issues. But terrible. But his Star Wars run is, oh, here we go. Noah has disconnected.
Oh,
Oh
nope.
no,
No? Is it
No,
just my
so-
end?
it's
Yeah, I
your end
think-
because you just sounded like a robot for 1 second,
Might
and I
be
was
my end.
worried. But
Anyway,
All right.
but yeah, his Marvel's, it's not even a Marvel run. It should be a Marvel run. It was considered not canon when it came out. And it is horrible. He
I know
already existing stories and ruins them. Like he rips off Courtship of Princess Leia, makes it bad. Rips off Wraith Squadron, makes it bad.
he rips off like the typical like Han versus Boba stuff and makes it bad.
Yeah.
And I know because it just reminded me because you said, oh, it was like non-canon to the EU. Proudly said so by Randy Stradley. And the only reason I don't have him on this list is because I think the guy himself made a lot of terrible decisions, but he's a decent enough writer on his own. But I want to give a shout out Randy Stradley. What a genius.
Randy Stradley. Yeah, it was in that era where it looked like the EU was going to get rebooted. This was the start. This is the false start. Because I almost put the Invasion authors in, and I didn't. I didn't. I think I should have, but I think the people ahead of this deserve being on this list more. But
See, I'm not surprised Brian Wood's on your top 10. I'm surprised he's only 8th.
oh, dude, you because we'll get to why people are higher. Because this is the last author I don't think is an asshole.
Ah, okay.
So, Dylan, let's go with 7.
All right, so number 7 for the masses is another Who. It's going to be Donna Toscher, who wrote Star Wars Journal Hero for Hire. It was a Han Solo journal, and that's it. There's going to be one more Who. It's not going to be for a while, but a lot of the masses, the young adult books, generally speaking, have a lower ratings on average than like the adult novels. So a lot of these are the bottom 10 are going to be filled with young adult writers. That's unfortunately just how it is. My number 7 is Tim Levin, author of Dawn of the Jedi Into the Void.
See, I like Tim Levin, and I like him as a Star Wars author.
Really?
Minority there, I get it.
Okay.
You're in here with the 2 biggest Tim Levin fans.
I know. But maybe, okay, I don't think Tim Levin did a great job, especially when you're reading. I think the main problem with him, that was his fault, because it's not his fault, right? The Dawn of the Jedi era basically got cut off because the EU got canceled, right? That's not his fault. It's not his fault that there was nothing really to work with that he could tie into it. That's not his fault. I do think what was his fault is the very clunkily way that he handled the whole the story that's happening now and the flashbacks. That is incredibly confusing. That unless you're reading the audiobook or you've already read it once or twice and can tell what's happening, that you can follow it.
Absolutely.
That's why he is number 7, and is the second to last one and done author on my list.
Okay. Noah, number 7.
Okay, 7. Let's go with Brian Wood.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. It's reasonable.
Yeah.
My number 7 and my number 6 were very close. I don't want to put that out, but I went with number 7, Karen Miller.
Only 7?
Karen Miller wrote 3 of the worst Star Wars books I've ever read.
Yep.
In fact, I consider Gambit, Stealth, and Siege to be the absolute worst Star Wars books ever written.
Also known as Siege and Gambit, yes.
Yeah.
But wait for Matt Wilkins coming in.
I think he's busy tonight. I think that's what he's doing.
Someone, by the way, with the absolute state of Wikipedia, someone needs to change the articles for Stealth and Siege to be Stealth and Gambit. Just to see how long it takes them to fix it.
I bet no one cares. No one cares
No one
enough
cares
about these.
with Wikipedia anymore. But no, she also wrote Wild Space, which I argue is a good idea for a short story, a terrible idea for a novel. And yeah, she didn't care about the EU. This is the beginning of people not just blatantly kind of being dickish about it. But what put her down to 7 is that she wasn't super asshole-ish about it. She just considered it fan fiction. So I had to put her under the number 6 slot. So yeah, Karen Miller. Number 6, Dylan.
Oh, I thought we were on. Okay, 6. Yeah, sorry, I was reading my thing wrong. Well, for the masses, I need to. Before I say this, for whatever reason, the masses do not like early Del Rey era, except for the novelizations. The early stuff, like before pre-Bantam, like those early novels that came out in the 70s, 80s, they do not like them. Which is why L. Neil Smith is number 6 and the 6th worst for the masses.
That hurts my heart.
The masses have no taste.
That's some good. You want some creative EU? You read the Lando Calrissian.
I'm reading. I finished Meinhardt a couple.
Well, we'll get into the.
We'll get. But yeah, my number 6 is is the final one and done. Steve Barnes, another forgettable Clone Wars novel, Cessna's Deception. It's less. Maybe this is my own bias because my favorite of all the movie characters has always been Kit Fisto. And this is this is the only novel that really follows Kit Fisto, and he doesn't really do much in it.
It's a weird book. I like it because it's a different side of Obi-Wan.
Mm-hmm. I think it does that great, but it has the unfortunate thing of a person falls in love with clone, which is weird.
Which actually I want to say is interesting because this was before Karen Traviss.
Yes.
So there's something interesting there at least. I would say the book is fine. It's not the best, not the worst, but it's an okay read. Definitely too long. No.
But also The Hive. The short story The Hive he wrote. I'm sorry, I think
never read it.
I think if it was just Cessna's Deception, right? The Hive is a very interesting story, but it reads more like a Star Trek story than a Star Wars story.
Oh. Yeah.
And I think if it was just Cessna's Deception, he may be 10, but because it's of The Hive as well.
Yeah. Noah.
All right, number 6, Karen Miller.
Okay.
I mean, the one thing I will say, because you've said everything, Siege and Gambit, terrible. Wild Space, awful.
Siege and Gambit.
The one saving grace, the one good story she actually wrote was the Mercy Kill tie-in short story, and that's it.
Oh, I didn't know she wrote that. I've never read that.
Yeah, but that's her best thing, because it's short and it's just about my re-enter this, and that's it.
Okay. I'm going to shock you. It's considered a 2 and done, but it was from the comic strips from or I think the Empire Strikes Back weekly originally, and it's Alan Moore. I hate Alan Moore, and I'm going to explain this. I think he's one of the most overrated authors ever. I used to worship Alan Moore when I was in high school, and then you just start to realize that he has these great ideas for set pieces, but he can't tie them together. He, as Razorfist put it in a live stream, he would piss on himself, and I'm paraphrasing, he would piss on himself if it would upset Margaret Thatcher. I mean, he can't write women. He can't write anything. And then when it came to Star Wars, he wrote fucking nonsense. And I love weird Star Wars, but his stuff makes no sense. There's like time travel. There's floating jellyfish that are playing chess with Darth Vader. Like, what? It's not.
Disrespect. The disrespect to Devil Worlds. This is what Supernatural Encounters is based on.
Oh, no.
Joe Bongiorno, he saw Devil Worlds and he said, I want to turn this into an epic.
Well, I think Joe Bongiorno can make it work, then I might have more respect. But I don't like Alan Moore as a person. And I really don't like Devil Worlds. I just don't. I remember being obsessed with it when I finally got it. Like, I was so excited. Alan Moore wrote Star Wars, and then I read it, and I'm like, ugh. Oh,
this is like
Star Wars.
this is like when I found out the guy who wrote The Boys also wrote 2 Star Wars comics, like in Tales.
Oh, Garth Ennis?
Yeah.
Not cut out for Star Wars. One of my favorite comic book authors, very disappointed when he wrote Star Wars. But anyway, we're at number 5. We're in the top 5 now, Dylan.
Well, the masses think Galaxy's Ruins of Dantooine author Veronica Whitney Robinson is the 5th worst Star Wars author, who co-wrote that with Hayden Blackman, which I think was Hayden Blackman's only novel contribution to the EU.
Except for like, Force Unleashed, but that's just says like based on a story by Blackman. So.
Yeah. My number 5 is the reason that I split up Shane Dix. It's Sean Williams. I think he is significantly worse than Shane Dix because, I mean, of all the people on my list, I think he has written the most. He had 6 shots at a Star Wars novel and had 3 okay ones in the Force Heretic trilogy, 1 absolutely terrible one in Fatal Alliance, and 2 like really bad novelizations, like for as far as novelizations go, in the Force Unleashed 1 and 2. And like, it's puzzling to me because, like, why did he? The more I'm reading, I think about this because I've recently read. Maybe I'm a little biased because I've recently read Force Unleashed 1 and 2, but like he can't write action scenes that well. So, but he was contracted to write a novelization for 2 games that are known for the big boss battles and the duels, and like he had the really nice touch to both of them with the Juno Eclipse POV part and the little side quest she goes on in the beginning of Force Unleashed 2, and like that gives it some redeeming qualities. But there's absolutely nothing redeeming about Fatal Alliance. I think everyone agrees it's the worst of the Tor novels, and it's worse by a long shot. It says something that when they were gearing up for the final battle, the only character I cared about was the random Keldor Honor Guard guy that was like the only one of the 12 Honor Guard guys that didn't die in that ambush. He was the only one I legitimately cared about, and thankfully he lived. But that's all I can. Other that and like not Basilev, Satil Shan shows up because they had to get in that Tor character tie-in.
And she doesn't act like Satil Shan.
No,
at all. I was very confused.
You know what? I just recently wrote a chapter about Fatal Alliance in my chronology. I had to look up what it was about. I legitimately was amazed at the ending with like the clone and like the ghost of his mother, because I didn't remember any of that.
Oh, by the way, the book is called Fatal Alliance. It takes over 200 pages for the Fatal Alliance to actually happen.
Yep.
It's nonsense. It's nonsense. If I had a number 11 slot, Sean Williams would have been in it.
I'm gonna defend him a little bit because while I don't like his books, well, I do like Force Heretic. Like that's a good, fine trilogy in my opinion. But the feeling I get, Sean Williams seems to be like a genuine fan of the expanded universe, and he wants to make connections.
Mhm.
And like you said, Force Unleashed 2 surprised me. Because if it was just like a little short story novella, basically just about Juno Eclipse, it would be great. But yeah,
Juno Eclipse segments are by far the best part of the novels.
definitely. So yeah, so I guess he's like, his heart is at the right place, but he just
Mhm.
can't write good enough.
Right.
Like, he
And
doesn't have the right talent.
the other reason I have him so high is because I can't think of an author who has been given 6 opportunities to write a Star Wars novel and has not been able to at least do
Yeah.
better than like decent.
Well, I can think of one, but we'll get to that person. But actually, not 6. Well, no, yes. Let's number 5 for you, Noah.
Since I'm still missing one author, let's go with. I'm thinking. Okay, let's go with Veronica Whitney Robinson from Runes of Dantooine. I mean, I'm with the masses on this one.
If we had a mediocre list, she'd be on that.
Yeah.
Not
So,
enough.
the only memorable thing about Runes of Dantooine is that Miss Veronica is a very attractive looking lady, and that's it. The book itself.
Oh,
It's
and
like,
Galaxy's tie-in.
The cover, by the way, transcends the "so bad is good" bar, though.
Yeah,
I can't wait for the Essential Legends Collection reprint. They have to outdo themselves.
we have to. If they ever let the fans vote, we all need to vote for that.
They already made Into the Voice a cover verse.
Oh yeah.
Oh god, it looks like a children's paint. It looks like the Czech Heir to the Empire cover.
Oh yeah. my number 5. We ready for this?
Yeah.
Daniel Jose Older. I don't like him. He attacks fans.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to. No way.
I know him only by reputation. I don't read canon.
Well, he wrote a solo tie-in book, which was a post-Jedi book, which make sense. Called Last Shots, which has 4 different plot lines going on, and it is so mediocre. But he was like, if you don't like it, you're a bunch of suckers. It was like Chuck Wendig all over again, only not as crazy, which is why he's so low. But his books is meh. And he's one of the ones on retainer now for Lucasfilm. And they're like, we need you to write some High Republic. They get him. One of the couple.
Wait till he has like a public meltdown on Twitter, like Chuck did. He's gonna tell people they're gonna eat a boot full of shit, and then Disney is gonna X him.
Oh, but yeah. Anyway, Dylan.
Wait. I think I vaguely remember. Isn't Last Shot the one where you said it's like a Fatal Alliance and New Rebellion?
Yes. The only memorable thing about, well, first of all, Lando is in love with a Twi'lek in it, and that's who he's going to settle down with and marry. But they retconned that for Rise of Skywalker. But I mean, the new canon, you can have children, Twi'leks, and humans can have babies because Dave Filoni made that a thing in TCW with the grossest monsters ever.
Don't remind me.
And as we know in Rebels, if you're a human man and you have a child with a Twi'lek female, the child is just going to be human, but his hair color is going to be the skin color of the Twi'lek. Because that makes sense.
But the other thing is that the villain's name is Fyzen Gore, which is way too cool of a name for such a lame villain. Who I guess he's like the species that are on Utapau, the tall ones, which is neat, I guess, because you don't see a lot of them. But like other than that, the main plot line with Han and Lando is meh. Han's plotline with Sonya Solo, his wife, his fake wife from the new Marvel comics, is really bad. And Lando and L3's plot is pretty bad too. And then the villain's backstory just is nothing. It's not a good book.
Oh, Marcel brings up a good point in the comments. The guy also made fun of the Courtship of Princess Leia cover.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And then literally their new The Princess and the Scoundrel looks just like the Courtship of Princess Leia cover.
Mm.
It's
Except not as good of a cleavage.
No. But,
All right, number 4.
yes, with the masses pick.
The masses picked Barbara Hambly, which we'll get into later. I'll say.
She's not on my list. I will just put that out there.
My number 4
Honorable mention, though,
is Maya Catherine Bornhorf. If I even pronounce her last name. So she is an uncredited co-writer for Coruscant Nights 3 Patterns of the Force with Michael Reeves, and also wrote Shadow Games and Last Jedi also with Michael Reeves. Now, I think Michael Reeves is fantastic in like a lot of his other things.
Yeah.
And I think I haven't read Shadow Games, but Coruscant Nights 3 and Last Jedi are by far his worst novels, which is why I have Maya here, because she's the only constant.
I honestly, so we have a theory. I have a theory because Michael Reeves has Parkinson's, correct, Noah?
Yeah.
I think she helps him write, like started helping him write, because I think he started to have that and we just never knew about it.
Mm-hmm.
I just think he ran out of ideas.
Okay.
Like, especially with Coruscant Nights, you could tell the ideas were running out. I will say Shadow Games is really good.
Okay.
I think it's severely underrated. It's a weird story, but it's a Dash Rendar story.
Mm-hmm. The only one other than outside of Shadows of the Empire.
Yes, and his cameo in Shadows of the Empire Evolutions.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're probably right, Brian. She probably wouldn't be if I'd read Shadow Games. But from what I've read so far of her, she's number 4.
That's why she's kind of confusing, because I like the third Coruscant Night. I have to reread the trilogy and Last Jedi, but to me, Coruscant Nights 3 Patterns of Force, it's fine.
Mhm.
And Shadow Games is a good book, but The Last Jedi, I don't know how much I blame her or Reeves, because that book, while it's not terrible, it just feels so pointless. Like, what was the point of it?
Probably why it took so long to come out.
I didn't like it because my main thing for not liking it is because the Coruscant Nights trilogy kind of built up this whole this little group that Jax had, and they all work together. They were greater together than they were apart. And then Last Jedi comes out, and one of them dies, and Jax is like, okay, I'm gonna do it on my own now. And the whole book is him being like, I'm gonna do it on my own and leave everyone else behind. When that's clearly not what the whole trilogy before it. Because also Last Jedi, even though it's not, it's basically Coruscant Nights book 4 for all intents and purposes, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you're probably right. We don't know if it was Michael Reeves or if it was Maya. We don't know why that happened, but I was just looking at it specifically for this. When she started getting involved in this trilogy is when it started going down. So she must have been what caused it to go down. But I didn't know that about Michael Reeves.
Yeah, and just quick to add to your point, what I vividly remember is I was looking forward to, because throughout Coruscant Nights, the trilogy, there's this little subplot going on with the Twi'lek maybe having interest in Jax Paven. Mm-hmm. And it was done in a way where he's oblivious to it. And I was thinking, oh, maybe this is going to develop into a romance or something. And then it never pays off.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's just weird. And that was a disappointment.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Noah.
My number 4. Okay, let me check if I have enough room for authors left. Yeah. Okay, because I didn't make a full top 10 and now I'm confused. But yeah, number 4, Tom Taylor.
Oh, okay. I didn't think of him.
Oh,
What
But-
did he write? He wrote a Darth Maul TCW tie-in comic and famously Invasion. Randy Stradley's baby, Invasion. And he
Yeah.
got a pretty bad offer to do it. Because Invasion is the TCW of the New
yes,
Jedi Order.
yes.
It doesn't care about continuity. I read it in order with the books. Blatant contradictions. It doesn't work at all on any level. And I remember someone telling me Tom Taylor was like, oh yeah, I did read the books up until book 10 or something. And it's like, no, you didn't.
Mhm.
You
No.
genuinely didn't.
And-
You have contradictions hardcore with book 1 and 2 and 3 already. You have the New Republic fight the Yuuzhan Vong between Vector Prime and Darktide, which is impossible. You have the
Right.
Jedi involved, which is also impossible.
And like, not even that, he like has his like he has his own like Ahsoka. It's not Ahsoka, but like an Ahsoka like self-insert character that like he kind of thrusts into the main story when it's like, especially like he just thrusts into, oh yeah, this character is with the solo kids and like the Solo family right as they're going through the grieving process of losing Chewbacca, which happened
meets-
like a week ago with the context. And it's like, here's this random character you've never heard of and never shows up again, and that's just in the middle of this drama for no
Dude.
reason.
This guy, Finn Gelfridian, he meets Han, who is heartbroken over Chewie's death, and he talks with him. He's like, you shouldn't act this way to your children just because you're sad. I know what it is to lose a father. And it's like, shut the fuck up, you asshole. Who are you? Finn, he's really is like the discount Luke Skywalker. He's the blonde kid, he's 19, he comes from a noble family, he has the potential to be a Jedi. Obviously, they want a new Luke Skywalker. Doesn't work. The best character in this is Dre, who's like this old guy from the TCW comic that he was in when he was a child. He has like permanent brain damage and he's insane and he's like a dark side force user and he's fun. And that's like the only good thing to come out of Invasion, because everything else is trash in there. Like, even if you ignore the contradictions, it's a meh story at best.
Mhm. And it was just destined to fail because you're gonna make this story about New Jedi Order and set it at the very beginning of the timeline, but after it's already done, and you're gonna include new characters. So like if you read New Jedi Order back in the day, now you're coming back to it. You know, it's like, okay, these characters aren't like, why am I gonna get invested in these characters? They're not integral to the entire New Jedi story.
Yeah,
New
but it
Jedi
could
Order
still be
story.
interesting if you give them an interesting enough story. Or if
Yeah.
you bring in other characters, like Kyle Katarn. What were the other Jedi doing? Don't have
Right.
one specific main character. Maybe just jump around. Show us
Right.
stuff that the books didn't show. But
And again, it's a great concept, like a New Jedi Order comic, great in concept, because there in the New Jedi Order novels, there is a significant lack of like, it describes what the Vong look like, what their technology is, and like how they operate, but it doesn't show it. It's such, the comic book medium is such a great medium to like tell that story, and they completely fumble it.
thank you, Randy Stradley.
Yeah.
I hope it was worth it. Rebellion got cancelled and replaced by Invasion. And then Invasion also got cancelled because it's a failure. And then we got the Brian Wood run. Oh no, first he brought back Legacy, which he also had cancelled. But then he brought it back anyway.
Yeah. Are you ready for my number 4 here?
Yeah.
You guys know. It's Karen Travis. What can I say that we haven't said in just about every episode of this fucking podcast at this point? Karen Travis is a goblin. Karen Travis made it a thing to attack fans, which is why she's so high on this list. I mean, you didn't like Karen Travis. Well, fuck you. You're a Tala fan. And her books, she's written 2 good books. Both, one is the First Republic book, which I think is a solid military style book with the Star Wars IP,
Mm-hmm.
and No Prisoners, which is another solid military book. That happened to be a weird TCW tie-in.
Right, because contractually, and then she had the novelization of TCW, which, like, for
It's
for
fine.
having a terrible script, she did a very good job with an absolutely atrocious script.
But starting with 000, we start to see a trend of I hate Jedi. I hate Jedi a lot. All of my cool Jedi don't want to be Jedi, and they fuck clones.
The Mandalorians are
They
so
run-
awesome. They care about family.
They care about family. They're a bunch of psychotic mercenaries that
A bunch of psychotic Vin Diesels. That's
Yes.
the Mandalorians in Karen Travis works. I
Yes.
absolutely hate them.
they're all Riddick. They're dumb Riddick. Some of them are really dumb. Like sometimes Scarada does things, and I'm like, this is the voice of reason.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's, and then we get to Legacy of the Force, which I don't understand why. After we have Aaron Alston, a darling of Star Wars, we follow it up with a Karen Travis book.
Because this was made with like completely soulless, just saying, okay, who are the most popular authors right now? Let's bring in Aaron Alston, X-Wing. It's the early 2000s. Everyone loves Karen Travis, Republic Commando. Let's bring her in. And her Mandalorian are so useless in Legacy of the Force. What Boba is teaching Jaina, punch harder.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, thank you. That's amazing.
Why is Boba Mandalore? That still doesn't make any sense.
He just is.
He just is. And then of course you have Troy Denning.
Mm-hmm.
But
oh, and don't forget about a practical man, the shoe in
where we learned that it was actually the Mandalorians who won the Yuuzhan.
Right.
They were the reason the New Republic won it all.
It's so
right.
dumb. So dumb. And just every Republic Commando book starting with 000, it's just like
crap on my camera fell off. Okay.
It's just and
you can actually tell with Republic Commando when she started losing her mind and
Yeah.
getting annoyed with the online critics of hers. It just gets worse.
Loves killing Geonosians.
I'll never forget the sign in the scene where I think it was in Imperial Commando when someone comes up to her and it's like, hey, by the way, your daughter is dating a clone now. And that was, it's like, you haven't noticed? And it's like, no, because you didn't build that up at all. You just said it was a thing that was happening now. And now I'm just like, okay, I guess his daughter is dating a clone now. Because that clone didn't have a girlfriend yet, I guess.
That's something we have to know. This is like Order 66. Every new chapter in Order 66, this clone has a girlfriend, this one has a girlfriend, this one also has a girlfriend. Kyle Skirata is getting a gilf. That's awesome.
It's the only interesting
in a stupid way.
The only thing interesting in Order 66 is the potential that she decide. Well, first of all, let's talk about how the Battle of Coruscant apparently took days in Order 66 for
no. I think that's actually within continuity of Labyrinth of Evil because it also takes place, isn't it? I thought it was Labyrinth of Evil.
I don't think it is days. I think it's a day.
Is it?
Yeah, I think it's just a 1 day quick attack.
Yeah,
pretty sure.
And then
she also said the number of clones.
The origin of the 501st not being on Kamino is interesting. That's it.
See, I don't have Karen Travis on my list because there are times when she is absolutely brilliant. Like I loved getting the on the ground perspective of the clones when Order 66 dropped. I thought that was like.
You mean the last 30 pages of Order 66?
Yes, the last 30 pages of Order 66, the novel. The entire book where Cal is just keep going. It's like, okay, we're gonna get everyone out. We're gonna get everyone to Coruscant first, and then we're gonna bug out. And you're just sitting there just like an idiot. Because you know what's going to happen, right? But he's just like, for some reason, it's like, no. They can't meet us on the way. No. We can't just send everyone away from where they are straight to Mandalore. We have to all come to Coruscant. and all go out together. That's how we're gonna leave.
Yeah. And in regards to her only good book, well, two good books. Like you said, Hard Contact is fine. And then No Prisoners. No Prisoners is a weird one because it's a TCW tie-in. And to me, it's like the
It's a-
best fan fiction because
it's a-
it feels.
Phantom love letter.
Yeah, but it feels like Luke Skywalker meeting Batman. Like it has Pelion is basically the main character, and that's awesome. I
Yeah.
will recommend the book simply because it has young Pelion. But
Mhm.
it Pelion, Callista meeting, which is like okay, but then they also meet Ahsoka and Rex and
Mhm.
TCW Anakin, and it's like okay, that's too much. No,
But
Just-
I will say another good positive to No Prisoners references Prelude to Rebellion and the fact that Keanu Moody has multiple wives.
Mhm.
That was a nice talk, and it was nice that Anakin. I don't know how Anakin knew that.
I mean, I guess that would be kind of public knowledge.
I guess it
Yeah,
would.
I think it wasn't like an open secret in the Jedi Council.
I mean, Keanu Moody was just like he got all the special treatment. I mean, he was on the council before being a master.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we also get a bunch of about the Altesian Jedi, you know, Callista's group.
Yeah, and
Because-
that's a nice continuity fix.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and it's mostly so Karen Travis can shit on the prequel Jedi Order and say these
Right.
guys are awesome. They're all gonna get wiped out, but
Yeah,
they're
make-
awesome.
And then make a reference to them in Imperial Commando and like set up that they're gonna meet and it's gonna be okay, and then she quit. But again, she has her moments because, like you said, she writes Pelion very well in No Prisoners, and I think her books her books in Legacy of the Force, when she's not focusing on A, the Mandalorians, and B, the Jason subplot, when she actually focuses on the war, is quite good. She writes Pelion fairly well in that. And I think she does the battle scenes and like the whole the planetary stuff quite the planetary disputes between Corellia and the Galactic Alliance fairly well. It's
Yep.
just all of the melodramatic like the love triangle and like the Mandalorians are awesome and the Jedi are terrible stuff that she adds in.
Yeah, so the thing with her is she can't write romances. She can't just help herself with her Mandalorians. She's a fangirl for Mandalorians. Basically, the only characters she can write are military guys.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
No
that-
Jedi, no Force users, and no romance stuff.
Yeah. Guess write what you know, which is why Hard Contact works.
Mhm.
But you can't just do that over and over again. You have to up the ante. And the thing is, 000 is a cool concept.
Mhm.
A Clone Wars novel. It's just executed at the worst way
But
possible.
it's still a tolerable story. Like Republic Commando, the series gets worse as you go. Each novel
Yes.
gets progressively worse.
Mhm.
Yeah, with 000, it's like the first half is very good, and then it just goes off the rails. Like the ending. Oh, the Jedi girlfriend. Okay, first off, they got together, the Jedi general with a clone within this book. Okay, so you have a romance between them, and then at the very end of the book, oh, she's already pregnant.
Yep.
That's nuts.
After the previous book, which is only, if we count TCW, only weeks.
Probably a
apart.
few days.
She felt a 10-year-old in the Force. Thought it was a child, and it's a grown man.
Yes,
It considers them children in the first book. So is this grooming?
Again, of all the relationships, right? The only one that she built up that I thought worked was Bethany and Ordo. That was the only one that I thought was understandable of why it happened. And even then, I still had some reservations about it, but there was at least an effort. But at the end, when she's literally just this girl's with this girl now, no explanation. It's just happened. Accept it.
Doesn't one of the clones go with like a Twi'lek bartender or something?
Yes.
Yes.
That is set up in 000.
Atin, I think his name is. He's one of the Omega guys.
Yeah.
At least this isn't the TCW version, so he can't get her pregnant and create horrible monster children.
All right, what's your what were we on 4?
This is we're about what's the masses number 3 worst?
The masses number 3 worst is.
Aren't we still on 4?
Did you do your 4, Jeremy, or was it Karen Travis?
Yeah, it was
You were
Karen Travis. Number
Okay. I should have known that. Karen Travis would have been noticed too. All right, so number 3 for the masses is the final Who in K.D. Burkett, who wrote Star Wars Science Adventures, Emergency in Escape Pod 4, and Journey Across Planet X.
Yeah, with Jude Watson. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's reasonable. It's some of Jude Watson's worst too. They're just weird. They're very preachy. Like trying to teach the kids science. It's just Star Wars isn't the platform for that.
Yep. My number 3 is one that we've already talked about, Karen Miller.
Okay.
Very
So,
good.
not much I can add to what we've already said.
Okay, so let me look. My number 3 is Barbara Hambly. It's gotta be her.
Not on my list, and I'll explain why.
Mm-hmm.
I think she comes up with some very interesting concepts for the Bantam era, but they aren't executed properly.
Yeah.
I will say Planet of Twilight is probably the worst Bantam era book.
100%.
I will say this. Children of the Jedi bored me to tears.
Mm-hmm.
It made my brain hurt. Reading Children of the Jedi feels like you have fever and you lie in bed and your head is spinning and you don't know what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Children of the Jedi is legitimately horrible. I think she's a terrible writer, just in general. Like, she can't. Nothing happens for like 30 pages of her describing shit.
Mm-hmm.
And then her ideas are just, like you said, executed badly. And I would say most of the ideas are also bad.
Like, here's the ultimate combination of Planet of Twilight. Find an EU fan who has read Planet of Twilight in the last 3 years who could accurately describe the plot of what happens in it.
I couldn't tell you. I just know that the way they nerfed Luke was the dumbest in all of Bantam.
If you use the Force on this planet, you will create a tornado.
And then the whole thing with Callista, I forget her name, but there was someone who was active in the community a while ago. She's not around anymore. She called her the Body Snatcher because she literally like possesses like another person.
And no one cares.
Yes.
No one. Cray Mingler commits suicide because her boyfriend dies, and no one ever cares. I don't think she's even mentioned in Darksaber or Planet of Twilight beyond just saying, "Oh, that's her body." And Barbara Hambly, she sets up Children of the Jedi. She constantly mentions everyone googling Cray Mingler, being like, "Oh, this blonde with the long legs, the big tits. Jesus, what I learned." And just so we know, Luke gets to fuck a hot female body. That's the important part.
But not just a hot female body, a dead hot female body.
Yes, it's double necrophilia. He's fucking a corpse and a ghost. And also, at the end, Children of the Jedi, Cray Mingler, her face, she transforms kind of into Callista's face. Her hair gets turned brown. Her face isn't the same anymore. And it's like, what? Is this a thing Force ghosts can do when they possess something? I don't remember Exar Kun's ghost turning into a stone building. What is this?
It's okay. Abeloth killed her.
Thank God.
She became a triple ghost.
Yeah. She was a ghost, then she was a zombie, and then she got possessed by a demon. Which by the way, something I love, Barbara Hambly apparently...
Can you repeat that sentence again?
She was a ghost, then she became a zombie, and then she got possessed by a demon. That's literally what happened.
Oh.
And then, yeah. And what I love about it, Barbara Hambly approached Lucasfilm apparently, because there's like a comment she made on like some forums where she said, "Oh, I approached Lucasfilm because I wanted to write another Callista novel," and they said, "Don't worry, we're taking good care of the character." And then they did Fate of the Jedi, and they gave her to Karen Travis in her Clone Wars novels.
God. I don't know how I can top that. Well, I can. Not exactly. I can be on par. My number 3 is Chuck Wendig.
Oh, I knew he was coming.
Chuck Wendig is a crazy man. He's the craziest person on this whole list. I'm just
Yep.
calling it now.
Yes.
I what can we say about him that
So-
I haven't complained about?
I like to make memes, right? And I like to Photoshop or use it by my very limited tools to crop authors' faces onto things. And I've had several meme ideas for Chuck Wendig that I just needed like to work a face of him looking like a normal human. If you ever Google Chuck Wendig and look at his face, he has never taken a photo of himself that is a normal photo. He is always doing something weird. I don't
Or he's a
understand
tarantula
it.
on his face.
We talked about it like in the back of the Aftermath paperback, like his author picture. We joked like his mom took the picture, and it's like this
Mhm.
staring at you.
He's a spaz. He does weird shit. I mean, like, his books are horrid. They're almost unreadable. His style of writing is almost unreadable.
And
His
he's so pretentious about it while also stealing from other authors. Like his Aftermath trilogy, a whole plot line just directly lifted from the X-Wing novels, which
Or
I've mentioned before.
Oh yeah, but dumber.
Way dumber.
Or the fact he stole Empire's End and made that his third book title.
Now, I actually like it because now it means Empire's End, A Dark Empire 3. It's the best story titled Empire's End now.
Yes, that is true. His adaptation of Force Awakens, let me talk about this, is bad. It was so bad I didn't review it. I read the whole thing and I said, I can't review this. It's gonna my first review, my review of Aftermath, I just called him names for 10 minutes before I even got into reviewing it. I was so angry. His first book, every other chapter is called interlude, and it's a bunch of shit that doesn't mean anything. Only a handful of the stories that are come up in the interludes lead to anything in the books, and they lead to more interludes in
But
the
we
book.
got space diapers.
We got space diapers, and the bounty hunter union, and the TIE fighter wibbled and wobbled, and then we got Aftermath. What was it? I can't remember. Life Debt, where we in one chapter we're having some interspecies erotica between a human and a Zabrak, which we did in the last episode talk about species that are okay to fuck in the Star Wars universe, and I guess Zabraks, that's a borderline. I would rather fuck a Zabrak than a Bothan, let's say. But like, if I had to, if I absolutely had to, but like, here's the deal: like, we get that, then that character, that human character, gets his eye graphically ripped out of his skull, and we all know I don't like the graphic stuff in Star Wars unless it's a horror book. In like a main story, this is supposed to be the reason we're getting to this is the journey to the Force Awakens, boys. This is the journey to the Force Awakens. Don't forget.
We learn why the New Republic is shitty, why it doesn't have a military.
Yeah, Mon Mothma's an idiot in the new canon. Even though she nearly gets assassinated, she still doesn't change.
And I've heard people say, "Oh, the Endor show redeems her character." Really, from Chuck Wendig's writing? That's hard to do.
It's hard to do. Also, I didn't finish the interlude after the graphic eye ripping. We get therapy Ewoks. And then Empire's End, we get this. So he makes his own Thrawn character, because I remember everyone's like, oh, it's Thrawn. But the guy's name's Gallius Rex, who was Sheev Palpatine's best friend when he was a little boy, which is not creepy at all. Anyway, his little galley, that's what he calls him. I remember this. Galley. Calls him Galley. He decides that the Empire has to be on Jakku to make them stronger for no reason. There's no reason that the Empire is on Jakku.
But the movie said, Force Awakens said there is a battle on Jakku, so this is connected.
But why is this the final battle of the Empire? Why is it?
Because they decided so.
I guess. Anyway,
Why is there a final battle? As we know, Palpatine has always been alive, and he knew about everything that was going to happen in
And he
Return of the
sold
Jedi,
together.
and he had plans for all of it.
Which I guess you can kind of squint at the end of Empire's End and say, "Oh, I can see that," but it's
But
nonsense.
there's no way Chuck Wendig knew where they were going with that when he wrote Empire's End.
No, obviously not. That's just a coincidence. Palpatine in the Disney canon is amazing because he's essentially playing 5D chess against himself. If he did absolutely nothing, he would have won.
Uh-huh. He's that good. He's all the Sith. He's every Sith. It's all in you.
I want to give a little bit of context too, because there's some people who might not appreciate what it was like back in 2015 when this came out. So, like the early Disney canon books, right, were not selling well. They were barely making it to like the top, and like they weren't even cracking the top 100 on the USA Today bestsellers list. And Aftermath was the first one that like blew past that, hit number one in the New York Times bestsellers in a long time. And again, the whole thing was like it was a part of the journey to The Force Awakens, right? That was the whole. It was all the marketing. That was the whole marketing and the hype. Now I haven't read Aftermath, because I had no reason to. But did it deliver at all on that premise of explaining how we got from the journey to The Force Awakens, how we got there?
No, it was a marketing gimmick, and they would change it to the Journey to the Last Jedi.
Did they even do a Journey to Rise of Skywalker?
No, they never bothered. Because Journey to the Last Jedi was actually worse, because that was two books that were books of short stories. Like Canto Bight, that was awful.
I mean, that's a clear journey to the Last Jedi.
The Legend of
that's a thing in the film, I've been told.
I guess it's with a couple background characters. It's like if Tales from the Mos Eisley Cantina
came out before the film
by John Jackson Miller not caring, and three people that can't write. That's Canto Bight. That's also the From a Certain Point of View books.
Gay in Space.
Gay in Space. Yeah, that's the Empire Strikes Back book. But Chuck Wendig also wrote for that. He wrote about the cantina bartender and made him horribly boring. But it's
I just reread his story in Tales from the Mos Eisley Cantina, the bartender. He's interesting in that. It's so much better. Oh, by the way, who wrote, because maybe you know this, who wrote the story about the Wills in the, I think, Ivan New Hope or Empire book? Because I've learned there's a short story about the Wills in one of those two books, and it makes Star Trek canon to Star Wars. It also establishes that Star Wars is a film series.
Is that are you talking about in the original Star Wars novelization, the Journal of the Wills?
The Wills, they are made canon in one of those.
Well, they're the
short story books.
Well, they're in Rogue One, the Guardians of the Wills.
Yes, but there's a short story about the Wills in one of those two short story Disney books.
Oh yeah,
where they make the movies canon, where they specifically mention like those are events we are recording this way. And then they also make Star Trek they make a Star Trek joke about the Starfleet. If this is the Starfleet, where is Spock? Where is Kirk? That's a quote. That's something they say, apparently.
I think that's in the first From a Certain Point of View. Because I kind of remember that. But I don't know. But yeah, Chuck Wendig, terrible. Let's move on to number 2.
Okay, someone in the comments said the Will story wasn't meant to be taken seriously. So essentially, those books are like Star Wars tales. Some is canon, some isn't. Just figure it out your own. That's even dumber.
I'm glad we got rid of the EU to keep everything in continuity, right? All right, number 2 from the masses. Probably not a surprise it's this high. Vonda McIntyre.
That's not on my list, but...
Nope. She's great. She should have written more.
I wish she did.
Vonda McIntyre, the Crystal Star, is who the masses think is number 2. Who I think is actually number 2, and who is actually the worst, of the Bantam authors is Barbara Hambly.
Okay.
Very nice.
Okay.
I don't know much more I can add because I kind of went on my rants. Oh, I do have one. She has this scene, right? This infuriates me so much. She had this scene in Children of the Jedi. It infuriates me so much that I remember it. It's where Mara Jade finds out that she was not the only Emperor's hand, right?
Yeah.
And she has like she absolutely flips out and is like that little like she like comes like this close to swearing and is like, oh, and is like and she says like, oh man, she's hell bent on like finding this other Emperor's hand and kill him. And it's like, oh, and you're reading this, it's like, oh wow, interesting. This is a character that I actually like, and like they're actually setting something up. I can't wait for this battle between these two former Emperor's hands to fight each other and Tamara get her revenge. And guess what? Literally never happens in that book or in any other book ever. Oh, it's like you build up this encounter. You build up this encounter, this rivalry, and you're just like, and you put so much into it. Mara is like absolutely furious in this scene, and you're just there like, yes, go off, Mara. I can't wait for you to show this other Emperor's hand who's boss, and it just doesn't happen.
To be fair, there is one encounter between Mara and Lumaya in a short story.
Mm-hmm.
But she didn't know that Lumaya was an Emperor's hand. But yeah, that part is like... There was something else. Oh, something else with Mara in the Barbara Hambly books. Children of the Jedi, Mara meets Callista at the very end when Luke is like, wow, look at Grey's dead body. That's my new girlfriend. And he introduces Callista to everyone, including Mara. And then in Darksaber, Mara meets Callista again for the first time. That's like a blatant contradiction by Kevin Anderson.
Funny.
Because that's the greatest scene Kevin has ever written, because they told him, oh yeah, people want Luke and Mara, can you set it up? And he's like, okay, I make it as blatant as possible because I'm Kevin J. Anderson. And Mara is literally flirting with Luke and checking out like what the situation is with his current girlfriend. And she sits down at the dinner table with Callista and she's like, so, you're Luke's girlfriend. It's like, good job, Kevin.
Noah, what's number 2?
Number 2 is Karen Traviss.
Okay.
Called it.
Yeah, it has to be, because
I know who your number 1 is.
we all know that's
Oh,
why
no.
this video was useless. We all know who it is. But yeah, with Karen Traviss, what I want to add, she is the most annoying of. She made me hate Mandalorians.
Mhm.
She's the most preachy Star Wars author about something that's just, I don't care. Mandalorians are terrible, and if I had ever given the chance to control the expanded universe, I would wipe them out. Their entire culture, everything. Just full on Holocaust.
What was yours, Jeremy? Number 2?
Okay, so I need to preference this. Chuck Wendig, crazy person, really terrible author. Daniel Jose Older, asshole. And we're getting into like the assholes part of the list. Something I hate, especially as a reviewer, like a book reviewer, I hate mediocrity. I hate mediocrity over everything else. A book can be really terrible and it can be fascinating. Aftermath is fascinating once you get past how awful it is. And it's because of how awful it is. E.K. Johnston is the epitome of mediocrity and then hiding behind it by putting diversity in the book. She's the queen of it. And I hate it. That's why she's my number 2. I can't stand her. She writes YA stuff for the new canon, and she is the epitome of bad. She started with an Ahsoka tie-in book to bridge between TCW and Rebels, which Dave Filoni has already contradicted.
I think it got contradicted by literally everything that came out after.
Yes, it was worthless. Then she wrote the Queen trilogy. The Queen's Shadow, which was...
I know one thing about these books, and I hate that I know it.
Yeah.
I can't remember what the second one was called.
We got Queen's Shadow, Queen's Peril, and Queen's Hope. Also known as Queen's Period.
Yeah, and then Queen's Pregnancy. Queen's Peril is just the Phantom Men. It's a retread of the Amidala Journal from 1999. They're almost exactly the same, except for, I will say, the handmaidens, I hate that their names all rhyme. I know that's a George Lucas thing, but we had Sabe, Erede, Harambe, Suave Mende. Like, they're just awful. And I'll let you guess which two of those are fake. Because honestly, all rhyme. You can't tell them apart, except for two of them are a couple for some reason. One's getting graphically tortured while Anakin really loves flying.
Aren't there like 12-year-olds or something?
Yes, they're kids in the first one. Like, they're like preteens and teenage girls, and one's being tortured by the Trade Federation throughout the book. And then you get Queen's Hope, which was just Dylan, we've talked about this so many times on here. I call it the Marvel diversity quota. You need to have this checklist in the book. It's got to be in there. You shove it in. It doesn't have to flow, but you got to get that all shoved in. And that's what they all that's just Queen's Hope. And then on top of that, I will say our good friend, the Geeks Addict, did get canceled on TikTok because he made fun of the book. And the TikTok side shave crybaby crowd threw a fit and like called him all sorts of names, including racist, which that had nothing to do with the book. The book's about a white woman, but I don't know. But Anakin's labeled a toxic male in Queen's Hope. It's awful. And yes, there now are periods in Star Wars,
which she was very proud of, because she wrote in like the afterword, like, "Thank you. Now someone has to write a Wikipedia article about periods," and thank God they actually did.
I just wanted pooping in a Star Wars book. I mean,
but they wrote a article about periods. They removed the naked Ayla Secura picture from the breast article, and that picture was canon. That was approved by George Lucas personally. Just want to point out the hypocrisy of Wikipedia again. It's not even a joke. It was approved by George Lucas.
Wow.
Oh my god. But yeah, no, I hate E.K. Johnston's books. And she's one of their main go-to authors. Again, like Daniel Jose Older. I don't get it. But what do the masses think is the worst EU author?
They have two.
Okay.
It is Paul and Hollis Davids, authors of the Jedi Prince series.
Oh
no.
That's heartbreaking. I get why number one.
They are the only ones who have a cumulative star rating below 3 stars, 2.92.
Oh, okay. Sad. Dylan, what's your number one?
Noah Stole My Thunder with Tom Taylor. Like, it was honestly, before you told me this list, I was like, it's got to be 100%. It's got to be Barbara Hambly, right? That's my number one. But then I was thinking of it like, no, it's Tom Taylor, because see, I was able to finish Children of the Jedi and Planet of Twilight. To this day, I have not gotten past issue 8 of Invasion. It's just that bad. I just can't bring myself to keep reading it. Like, I can't. There's no other author in all of Star Wars that's been able to do that, where I can't power through your novel. I don't want to read it, and I have no desire to read it. I don't want to finish it. And that's why Tom Taylor is number one. Like, I just have no interest in finishing Invasion. I'll probably read everything except for Invasion. I'm sorry. That's just how it's going to go.
You should finish it for the great ending. Which, okay, this I have to bring it up. Randy Stradley said, "Oh, we ended Invasion because we felt we hit the right spot to end it, to close all the character arcs." And like the author Tom Taylor came out and said that's not true. Like, actually, I had way more stories planned. Randy is just full of shit again. It doesn't want to admit it's cancelled because it doesn't sell.
It's too little, too late, and it's nonsense.
Yeah.
But Noah, just let it out. We all know what it is.
Number one. I mean, we all know it.
Say the name. Just say the name.
Okay. It's Matt Wilkins' favorite author. It's Troy Denning.
Still funny. I get it. I get why.
Okay. Should I go into it? Like, I do this on pretty much every stream, every video ever made.
Eh,
Okay.
What's the Cliff Notes version?
yeah.
Okay. Okay, Cliff Notes. Okay.
He's a sex pervert.
He's a creepy sex yeah, that's one thing.
That's
That's
like-
one flavor of it. The other thing, he can't write the characters. He doesn't hit the Star Wars tone. He literally doesn't know what fun is. And I really got that after reading Crucible. The guy cannot write fun to save his life. Okay, so pervert doesn't get the characters right, doesn't get fun.
Retcons New Jedi Orders.
Hardcore retcons a lot. He retcons his own work. The Fate of the Jedi retcons the Darkness trilogy. How? That's your stuff. Makes TCW connections. That's just a little thing. But
Everyone was doing it at the time.
yeah, but I have to bring it up. And I know that's not even mainly on him. That's a Leland Chi bullshit. But yeah.
Oh, you mean Chile? You haven't heard of Chile?
Sheeland Lee.
Oh God, you weren't around when that was a thing.
Oh,
So for those of you who don't know, we used to be friends with this guy named Edward, and he was so great at defending he get in arguments with people online. But he's one time he was with our buddy Tristan, and they were arguing continuity with some people because we were all kids back then. They were specifically kids, and he, instead of saying Leland, he's like, "You obviously haven't heard of Chile." It just became a joke. I think they
man.
were arguing with Swag 77, Dylan. I think that's
back in those days. Wow, that's a name I've not heard of in a long time. Anyway, Cliff Notes, Troy Denning, bad.
Okay, Troy Denning, worst possible offer to give control over the post-Endor era, recycles the prequels, then recycles the Old Republic, and then he would have done like his own Twilight version with his Ansati trilogy. He also wanted... We would have gotten a Legends equivalent of the Disney sequel trilogy, because he, as has been recently confirmed, I still need to get the actual quotes, but he wanted to make Alana Solo the real chosen one.
Oh.
That was his actual goal. And I'm sorry, he is the worst fucking author ever. The worst choice. Especially, you go from New Jedi Order, which had James Lucino at the top, controlling everything. And New Jedi Order, it's not 100% perfect, but it's amazing. It's the greatest piece of Star Wars content for me, because you have so many different people working together, and it's such a consistently good and clearly well thought out multi-book series.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get to the Troy Denning era. Oh my god, I honestly might take some Disney stuff over it. I think I have said Rise of Skywalker I had more fun watching than reading the Denningverse, because that was so terrible I could laugh at it. I wanted to commit seppuku after reading Legacy of the Force.
Yeah.
It is horrendous.
God.
I'm sorry. I knew this would happen, but yeah.
I think I might shock you guys. So, what's worse than mediocrity, craziness, hubris, being a douchebag? Well,
Boring?
not just that. How about you have a book that everyone thinks you wrote, but there's a lot of evidence saying other people wrote it? I'm talking about Pablo Hidalgo.
Oh,
Pablo Hidalgo, and I am very much of the opinion he did not write most of the essential Reader's Companion.
Oh,
okay.
I know.
I'm on board with this. I need to edit my list.
He is such a prick. And on top of it all, he's in control of things. He was for rebooting the EU in 08. That's like the beginning. Then he gets what he wants. He makes fun of fans all the time. He creates his High Republic, and it's just steampunk Star Wars with dumb lightsabers and side shaves.
And remember, they wanted dinosaurs in it.
And they want dinosaurs. And the plants from Little Shop of Horrors are in there.
Wow.
I want to apologize. My list is wrong. Kick Shane Dix off. He's number 11 now. Just put Pablo at 1 and move everyone up 1, please. I completely forgot.
Okay. If that's the case, I'm gonna keep Troy Denning as number 1 because obviously, but now Pablo is number 2.
I don't think he wrote anything. I mean, he probably wrote for West End Games. I can believe that. But I don't think he wrote that Essential Reader's Companion.
Yeah, because as we should explain why that is.
I can't remember whose project it was originally.
It was okay. Then it was originally, as confirmed, Joe Bongiorno, Rich Handley, and Abel G. Pena. Apparently, they said, "Oh, it was our project first." I don't know if it has been confirmed if they had started writing, but because we came up with like the fan theory just as a joke, like they probably wrote down like the basics for like the books and the YA. Books and stuff, and then Pablo probably took over and changed pretty much nothing. It would explain why the Reader's Companion has stuff like sometimes he mentions comics like Dark Empire, and sometimes he mentions like really YA stuff like Jedi Prince, which he makes a point of saying, "Oh, the Reader's Companion isn't meant to mention this type of stuff, but here it is anyway."
And Junior Jedi Knights is in there too.
Yeah.
And it's not in there correctly.
I would say it is. It has been established. Junior Jedi Knights is before Young Jedi Knights completely.
Okay, that's a mess. That's just a weird continuity mess. Those two series, but they're good. Highly recommend. But yeah, no, I don't think he really wrote any of it.
I would believe that he compiled it together. Maybe did some editing for it, kind of in a similar way that like Kevin J. Anderson wrote the anthology, the various anthologies in the Bantam era.
But yeah, no, I don't know. It strikes me as weird. He takes the credit for that, and then he shits on the EU. Why would he do that?
But he uses that as a blush. I've seen several times. He's like, "Oh, I love the EU. I wouldn't have written the Reader's Companion if I didn't." It's like his like. It's his criticism shield when like EU fans get on him about like it. It's all making sense now.
Yeah, this is.
Just imagine if the book actually was written by Joe Bongiorno, Rich Handley, and Abel G. Pena. They would have included literally everything, every piece of media.
Yeah,
that would have been insane.
That would have been like 8 books or a 2,000-page book.
But with Pablo, I can imagine he took it. He probably did write some of it, edit some of it, but I can totally imagine it's like a modified first draft that we have now.
Yeah.
Little conspiracy, allegedly.
Allegedly. But I don't like him. I don't like how much control he has over things. He's in. There's a triforce of bad with the Disney Star Wars. Kathleen Kennedy, Dave Filoni, Pablo Hidalgo.
We should mention if we count Pablo as an author, he also wrote those visual dictionaries and stuff for like the Disney sequels, which all of them are hardcore retconned. Like none of that shit matters. He wrote this whole backstory for Snoke and everything. Nope, nothing matters.
Nothing matters. And that's how he wants it. So whatever.
Yeah. Canon is overrated. Continuity doesn't matter, as told by Matt Martin from the Continuity Story Group.
Yeah.
Yep.
He picked his own story group. Of course, Chile's in there.
You say so, but I don't know.
In spirit.
He's imprisoned like Revan.
I don't think he did much with the continuity. We've talked about this before.
Yeah.
It's very like
Yeah. Leland, from all I've seen, he's done like the dumbest shit.
Mhm.
He made Skywalker wine canon because George Lucas said this as a joke in a talk show once.
yeah.
Leland Shee, ladies and gentlemen.
Chile.
The,
You have
the
to
video
see
game
how-
video game tester turned continuity Bible expert.
Yeah.
Because that's how he started. He was a tester for LucasArts.
But yeah. Anyway, that's my number one.
All right, we've been going for almost 2 hours now.
Yeah. What are we reading, Dylan?
I already said this, but I finished Mind Harp of Sharu
Yes.
a couple weeks ago, I think. At this point,
Absolutely.
reading's hard. I work so much now and I have a job where sometimes I get like I can just read at work, but if I can't read at work, I can't read at all.
Oh,
But it was all right. Honestly, I think maybe you guys overhyped the Lando trilogy a little too much. Maybe my expectations were a lot because
fun.
it was all right, but it wasn't like great. I would say.
I love
But I've only read Mind Harp, so maybe the other two will be better.
it's that classic era of early Star Wars.
It definitely feels like it because it does a thing that I don't like, where it like uses the real world equivalent for words when there are Star Wars, which I get why it does it because
Yes.
the Star Wars versions of the words did not exist when it happened. So in my eyes, it's forgivable when that happens. It's unforgivable when something like Legacy 2 does it.
Oh
that-
yeah, I forgot that.
What did Legacy 2 do?
They said bathroom instead of fresher.
Yeah, they
Oh,
use
oh.
like the real world equivalent of like what like the things are instead of like the Star Wars words for them. It's very for me. It's very immersion breaking when I read that. But again,
Yeah, that's what all the Disney books do now.
It's
but
expensive.
again, in Lando Trilogy's defense, those words did not exist at the time those were written, so it's forgivable.
Okay. All right, Noah. What 1,000 things are you reading right now?
I'm rereading the original Marvel comics. I'm almost done with the David Michelini run, which is good. Okay, it's really good. His Shira Bree story arc, good stuff. Some of my favorite issues. Yeah, solid. Especially after 3 of the worst authors ever, with like the Dreams of Cody Sunchild, the Third Law, and the Last Jedi. It's like
Yeah.
Jesus. And then Archie Goodwin came back for Droid World and Crimson Forever issue 50, and those were solid.
Good. It's a good issue. I've been alternating between Indiana Jones and Jedi Apprentice. So I recently last week, I think actually it was last week I finished the first Indiana Jones novel, The Peril at Delphi. Interesting book. I will have a review out for that. It's weird. Think of it as a young Indiana Jones book and not an Indiana Jones book because he's a graduate student in it. So he reads more like Sean Patrick Flannery than Harrison Ford, which is funny because it came out before or like in the first season of Young Indiana Jones, I think.
Yeah, that's why there are slight contradictions, I've heard.
They're workable.
Okay.
As far as they don't mention him being a World War I vet, which you'd think they would. That's something. And there's certain things you can tell Lucas didn't want them talking about Marion Ravenwood and her father.
Yeah.
So here we go. At the end.
Yep.
Now. But
Brian
yeah,
says, I didn't love Mind Harp. I won't love the other two. I guess we'll see.
yeah. They're short, at least.
Yeah.
So, anyway. Yeah. I also read Jedi Apprentice Book 3, The Hidden Past, which I think is the teeniest step down from Dark Rival.
Interesting, because that was written by both Dave Wolverton and Jude Watson.
Yeah, it's a fun story, but the Dark Rival does that whole backstory with Xanatos so well, so much better than the actual Xanatos Qui-Gon comic.
Are you gonna reread that one?
Yes, I will reread it. I read it a few years back because I had never read it before, and I was like, why is Tal in this?
And then please keep your eye out, because I have the theory, I don't know if this has been confirmed, but I think they were gonna do like a Qui-Gon comic series with that.
Yes.
But then it got cancelled, obviously.
Yeah. Another thing with that end of Dark Horse era. Well, I don't think it sold well at all.
No, clearly not. I don't think many people even know it exists.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like the only Qui-Gon story I can think of that doesn't have Obi-Wan in it. That isn't written by Jude Watson. But
Yeah, I was about to say like the two Jedi Apprentice prequels.
Oh yeah, Legacy of the Jedi and Secrets of the Jedi do have Qui-Gon Dooku stuff in them. But yeah, I like where it's going. It sets up Mark of the Crown. I know soon we're going to have a time jump with Obi-Wan, and I'm looking forward to that, because I'm not a big fan of when YA stories just have back-to-back-to-back adventures. I know there is a time skip here. It's not as severe as Jedi Quest. Jedi Quest jumps like several years between books at one point. But yeah, I'd like to see an older Obi-Wan. I mean, it's his 13th birthday in this book.
Mm-hmm.
But the current book I'm reading is Indiana Jones and the Dance of the Giants, which I think is significantly better than Peril at Delphi so far.
Okay.
And I did like Peril at Delphi.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to be curious when you get to the ending, because the ending, I liked it because it connected very much with Peril at Delphi in a way that was interesting, because we haven't seen that in Indiana Jones movies before, essentially.
Yeah, it's weird that we're having such a continuity. My problem with Peril at Delphi is some of the beats feel like Last Crusade, which makes sense because Rob McGregor wrote the novelization for Last Crusade.
Yeah, with like the female villain.
Yes, and the manipulation, although it's more severe in this because Indy's younger, so it would be. A lot of it makes logical sense, but the end is just wonky. It's a bit rushed.
Yeah, speaking of rushed endings, get used to it.
Okay.
That's kind of his thing. I think the third book was like the worst in that regard, because without big spoilers, it's kind of a Majesty's Secret Service situation.
Oh, okay.
And not exactly, but there is something to that effect. Yeah, and get used to seeing Merlin.
I knew that going in.
Yeah, he's a recurring character for some reason.
It makes me wonder if that's only a Rob McGregor thing.
Oh yeah, I'm curious about it.
Yeah, because you're almost done, because you're on the Unicorn's Legacy right now, right?
Yep. So Unicorn's Legacy, and then I don't remember what the next one is called, but that's it for Rob McGregor. And then two other authors. Interior World, okay, and then two other authors take over. But according to Rob McGregor, Merlin did pretty much everything. It's weird. Like in the movies, it's like Christianity, and here it's just Merlin. He did most of the stuff.
That was one of the things that people, because he criticized the Christian aspect, and I think that got him fired. Although he did come back, he tried to write Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and they said no because they had already contracted David Rawlins. And so they said, you can write the novelization to the Staff of Kings. And it never got published because Steve Perry's Army of the Dead was so bad.
That's still the last Indiana Jones novel we will ever get.
Maybe.
Unless they make a novelization for whatever the next one is called. Call of Duty.
They probably will.
Yeah, if anything, it'll come out at Christmas because they're so slow. With releasing those.
Remember when we got novelizations before the movies came out?
Yeah, it was great, but Disney's afraid of spoilers
because which is insane.
stuff's bad, and that's why they do it. But like Titan Books does that too, where they release it after the movie comes out, but it's usually only a few weeks. With Disney, it's like months.
Mm-hmm. Like after the hype has already died.
And they call it the expanded edition, and it's not expanded.
Mm-hmm.
Only one of those Star Wars novels they called expanded edition was actually expanded. Jason Fry put a ton of nonsense in the Last Jedi novelization. There's a rock paper scissors match.
Okay, if
in there.
Again, from what I've heard, right? If you were handed the Last Jedi script and told to make a book out of it, wouldn't you try to spice it up a little?
Well, I think that was cut scenes.
Really?
I think they filmed that, and we've just never seen it. The only thing he really adds that I'm almost certain they didn't film was the Luke's dream that he was married to Cammy and never became a Jedi. That's how that begins.
Wasn't that what like people like garbage Star Wars YouTubers were like, oh my god, Luke had a wife in canon confirmed, Mara Jade confirmed?
Yes.
I vaguely remember that.
It's Cammy, and then Shannon McRandall's like, that wasn't me. And I had a laugh. Shannon McRandall is like someone who's actually supports the fans.
Yes.
But yeah.
Oh, quick before we end, Maxwell has a question. Are the continuity errors bad enough that Invasion should be seen as non-canon? In my opinion, yes. Like,
I would agree.
It doesn't work at all.
Well, actually, let's get into this real quick, because I have a list of things that I would argue are not necessarily canon, or not all of it is canon because of TCW. So the things I straight up say are not canon with Legends. Season 6 of the Clone Wars is not canon at all. Because as I recall, it came out after Clone Wars was canceled and the Disney buyout had happened. The Lost Missions, not canon. And of course, Season 7's not canon either. I would not.
Darth Maul, Son of Dathomir?
That's a gray area. I'll get to that in a minute. But Brian Wood's Star Wars was confirmed not canon.
On that note, the 2 Empire and Rebellion books shouldn't be canon. Because as we have learned from Martha Wells, she was given like an outline of the storyline from the comics, Brian Wood, and just told, make it fit with Brian Wood's comics.
Yes. So, and that's why Han sees a Nogri, even though he wouldn't know what a Nogri is.
Yeah, in Honor Among Thieves. That's amazing.
Yes. I am of the opinion, we've talked about this before, that Filoni's Clone Wars, it's not really canon. In fact, things from 2008 on need to be scrutinized for canon. Because that's where the whole we're not going to care so much about continuity started to happen. Now, elements that happened in TCW probably did happen in the continuity of Star Wars. But like something like Abel G. Pena Skywalker's, I would consider more canon than TCW as a whole. There's certain things that you could throw in there that makes sense, but I mean, like, there's so many contradictions in TCW that aren't very explainable that it can't all be canon.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also have like the digest comics, TCW digest comics. I would consider those more canon than the show. But even then, you got to take it with a grain of salt. Same Invasion, I wouldn't consider canon at all. It doesn't make any sense. I wouldn't. Some of the Old Republic MMO, I would question that too. Especially anything that came out after the Disney buyout.
Yeah, I don't know if this is true, but I've been told they've tried to work in like Disney Star Wars stuff, like planets and such, but I don't know if this is confirmed.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen it. I don't pay enough attention to that to confirm that. But Dylan, you said that's the thing?
I don't know, because I don't play the game. I just know vaguely the main storyline.
Yeah.
Which has its own issues with the Emperor coming back as Falcorum, and
I've just researched this part. It comes out of nowhere. I have to do this chronologically, and just randomly, at some point, he found a world called Zakul and like a fleet, and then he made himself Valkorian, and he created a new empire for some reason, with no setup and nothing. This just happens.
Yeah. As for the Darth Maul death sentence and Son of Dathomir, specifically Son of Dathomir, if you are to include those in canon, we have to include visionaries. And I have issues with including visionaries as canon because it's mostly nonsense. Visionaries, as I recall, was designed to be art first, story after.
Yeah.
So you get some of the best art that Dark Horse ever did is in Visionaries. Some of the most wild things. But yeah, it's just, and I'm not talking about the Darth Maul Obi-Wan fight. Honestly, that's one of the better stories in Visionaries. It's more enjoyable. But I'm talking, who's the head of the Techno Union?
Wat Tambor.
Wat Tambor's story is horrible. I should have put that author in my top 10. But yeah, it's hard to really judge.
Oh god, and Maxwell, it's true, SWTOR worked in an alien species that first appeared in the Marvel Leia series.
Okay.
Oh no. We are in Joe Bongiorno territory. Mixing the canons. Where does supernatural encounters fit in your opinion?
It exists. Because other spaces.
Maybe. I mean, it still hasn't been released.
yeah,
I honestly wish it won't be released because I love this running joke.
I consider Devil Worlds canon. In my opinion, the comic strips fit better in continuity than the Marvel comic series. There's still a few bugs with that they hadn't smoothed out before the EU ended. I would love to write a short story. If I ever wrote anything Star Wars, I would write two things. One, a short story explaining why Luke has a lightsaber, a blue lightsaber. I think it'd be a fun little adventure. He finds a lightsaber, like trying to like research Jedi or something.
Oh, you mean like Heir to the Jedi? The famous book by Kevin Hearn?
Or like the new Marvel Star Wars series that's I can't remember who writes it. He has a half of a temple guard's lightsaber. He has a yellow lightsaber right now that he found that he's using. Something like that, I guess. The other would be explaining Ahsoka. Because Ahsoka is a conundrum of a character to explain. Because if Ahsoka was so important, why is she not in anything else?
She was the most important character in all of Star Wars.
Well, I mean, the new canon,
I mean, even if we count TCW seasons 1 to 5 in Legends, she literally got resurrected by a god. Mortis, remember?
Yes, and
she absorbed god powers. That literally happened. And then she was saved by time travel. And now she's defeating Thrawn in the upcoming series.
Yeah. I would write a story from her perspective and then have it bookended with Comp Noir propaganda, or that the TCW series was a HoloNet drama made in the Legacy era. I think Dylan and I have talked about this.
Yeah.
And they hear Ahsoka, they discover like a holocron that Ahsoka made or something like that, telling her story, and they're like, "Oh, that's depressing. Let's change this up." And that's how TCW.
It's like the Ember Island play in Avatar.
I had a cursed thought a while ago. If Karen Traviss had continued the Republic Commando series, she would have paired off Scout with a clone trooper.
Probably.
Oh god.
I apologize for introducing that cursed bit of knowledge.
Remember that Scout and Ahsoka were best friends, as we learn in the Essential Guide to Warfare? Because Ahsoka wrote a letter, like a literal piece of paper, a letter to Scout, and says like, "My best friend Scout, I'm the Jedi Padawan of Anakin Skywalker. He's so handsome." That's literally what's in there. It's
Remember when they tried to give Ahsoka a love interest in TCW called Lux Spawn Terrier?
yeah. Wasn't that when we got like the creeper shot of like her in her new outfit?
Oh God, yeah. I think that is.
Directed by Dave Filoni.
Oh yeah. But oh Lord.
Guest writer Troy Denning.
You know how he died? Do you know Lux Spawn Terrier dies in the new canon?
How?
He's killed by Iden Versio in the Battlefront 2 tie-in novel. You know, the main character from the Battlefront 2 campaign.
Oh my god, I've read that book. Inferno Squad, the novel. Oh my god, yeah. Yeah, I read the book. I
Yeah.
completely forgot about it.
Oh yes, spoilers. That's supposed to be the twist, but I guessed it about as soon as he was introduced. Like,
Yeah, me too.
yeah, he acts the same as a grown man as he did as a teenage boy, pretty much, just not as reckless. But they were
Yep.
the Dreamers. That was their group, the Dreamers. I'm like,
Save the dream. Remember the famous quote?
yeah, from Saw Gerrera, the greatest of
Mhm.
all characters.
Yeah. Why is he like a character who? So he first appeared TCW, then
Yes,
Rogue
this is
One, and now this Endor show, right?
Yeah, because they wanted Forrest Whitaker back,
Amazing.
I guess. But yeah, anyway.
Rob D, quick question I can answer. Big question. Where does ET fit in canon? Brodo Asagi is a planet. It's represented in the Galactic Senate. We see them in episode 1.
There's
They funded
reception.
yeah, they funded a little outbound flight project on their own to visit another galaxy, which is Earth.
Mhm.
And if you're gonna ask like, oh, but how can Star Wars be a fictional universe in ET, the movie? Man in Black, the first movie, shows us that Steven Spielberg and George Lucas are aliens, actually. So everything fits together and explains.
Plus, it's a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Mhm.
But yeah, anyway. I think that's it.
Yeah, 2 hours, 7 minutes.
Yeah, I've had to pee for about an hour.
All right.
It was when we started laughing about Karen Travis. it started to hit.
Yeah, you laughed so hard you pissed yourself.
My catheter burst, yeah.
Oh god.
But anyway. Stay Gucci, everyone. Join us next time as we talk about the top 10 best EU authors. And maybe Noah will actually write a list this time.
I will.
All right. Later.
Bye.